Hi, welcome to the very first episode of Family Fridays with RBP. I thought I'd kick things off with one of the most fun pieces ever written for the violin. It's by my musical ancestor, Henri Vieuxtemps, who was a Belgian violin virtuoso and composer. The country of Belgium is in Europe, close to France, and Vieuxtemps is actually my musical ancestor. I studied with Almeida Vamos, who studied with Persinger, who studied with Isai, who studied with Vieuxtemps, well, there you go. So Vieuxtemps is my great-great-grand teacher. Well, he made his first American tour in 1843, and he went around playing normal classical music, and the audiences weren't quite used to that stuff yet, so they didn't really get that excited about it. So Vieuxtemps decided to win them over by playing some popular tunes that they already knew and loved and making them into fancy violin versions. Well, after that, people realized, oh, wait a sec, the violin is really cool. And so as the story goes, when Vieuxtemps made his second American tour 13 years later, many a great artist had come and gone, and the American public was becoming more used to classical music, but Vieuxtemps decided to take no chances, and this piece remained on each of his programs. Well, it might have been a popular song back in 1843, but it's still beloved by all of us today. I'm not going to reveal what the tune is because I know you'll recognize it, and it's very comical to hear a very serious introduction written by a European artist, and then it breaks into this funny little tune, and then of course there's some wild virtuoso variations on that tune. So here is Souvenir de America, Souvenir of America by Henri Vieuxtemps. Okay. Well, you might be wondering, how do I get those cool whistly sounds on the violin? Well, those are called harmonics. Specifically, most of them are referred to as artificial harmonics. A natural harmonic would be where you put the finger lightly on the string, and it makes kind of a pure ringing tone. But artificial harmonics, you take a note where you would normally stop the string down here, and then you put a higher finger lightly, just barely touching the string above that finger, and all of a sudden it makes a much higher note. You have to go all the way up here to get that note, but instead you can play it right down here by having one solid finger and one light finger. Magic. Okay, well, now it's summertime, and I'm sure many of you, like my family, look forward to going out to the ballpark and catching a baseball game. Living in Chicago, of course, Wrigley Field is where we love to go with the ivy and the Cubs. But, of course, that's not going to happen this year. So I thought I'd play a little something that would remind us of those good times. And this was something I wrote last summer. I was invited to give a recital for the Cooperstown Chamber Music Festival. Well, Cooperstown, how do we know Cooperstown? The Baseball Hall of Fame, of course. And I've been meaning to write a baseball-themed virtuoso piece for a long time because my husband actually was a minor league pitcher in his youth. But I'd somehow or another never gotten around to it, but this was all the excuse I needed. So like my predecessors, Vieuxtemps and Paganini and Ernst, I often write virtuoso variations on this or that, but I thought, you know, maybe I'll do something a little different, because whenever you go to a ball game, there are all those bits of live music played by the theater organ type instrument, and I thought, well, maybe that would be kind of fun to intersperse those famous little, I don't even know what you would call them, sports themes in among this tune, Take Me Out to the Ball Game. So there are a couple of variations on Take Me Out to the Ball Game, but they're not back to back, and I actually change keys every time, and so it's just something a little different that I thought was kind of fun. So instead of calling it Variations on Take Me Out to the Ball Game, I call it A Day at the Ballpark. right, there you have it, a day at the ballpark. And hopefully I'll publish the sheet music before too long and you can try to play it yourself. All right, so I'm going to finish up today's program with a piece by one of my all-time favorite composers, Coleridge-Taylor Perkinson. Well, you can Google him. He had a long and extraordinary life, and I was very blessed to know him at the end of his life, which he spent in Chicago as director of the New Black Music Repertory Ensemble. And I got to work on his music with him. His music is absolutely addictive. He wrote some great string symphonias, lots of chamber music. Actually, my favorite track of all is a movement from his solo suite for cello. It's called Calvary Ostinato, and I will literally play that track like over and over again dozens of times. It's one of those pieces that makes you wish you played the cello. But I love his violin music as well, of course. And this is the third movement of his blues forms for violin. It's called Jettin blues. So it's the last fast movement. Perkinson was very inspired by jazz in a very organic way. It was just part of his musical language. And as I was working on this movement, he was explaining to me that there are certain elements of a jazz ensemble that he incorporated into this work for one little solo violin. So here you can hear kind of the brass call, and then a little solo that somebody's doodling, and then the brass call again. And so there's this kind of call and response thing happening, and sometimes two different instruments. So you can hear some interplay, some dialogue between different musicians of the ensemble as this piece is going along. Coleridge-Taylor Perkinson is one of the 40 composers featured in the RBP Foundation's coloring book of Black composers. And just for this week, you can download the coloring page of Perkinson. You can find it on ourconcerts.live/Perkinson. I'll be sure to leave the link in the comments, and if you color him, please upload the picture in the comments so we can all see what you did. So here is Blues Forms, last movement, Jettin Blues by Coleridge-Taylor Perkinson. Jettin Blues by Coleridge-Taylor Perkinson. And don't forget to go to ourconcerts.live/Perkinson to find the coloring page for music by Black composers. All right, well, thanks for watching. I'll be back next week with a Spanish-themed program, including one of my favorite children's stories, Ferdinand the Bull, in a special version for violin and narrator. See you then.